Right, hello everybody and welcome. Hello La, good to see you.
Hello everybody, lovely to be here.
All right, it really is a huge pleasure to be with you teachers here today. We are Meg Faure and Lara Schoenfeld. I'm going to introduce Lara. Lara is the co-founder with me of Playsense. She is an occupational therapist. She has 3 of her own little ones, 3 boys. So I always think that's somebody's superpower if they've got 3 little boys. And Lara is passionate about education and specifically about play and the role of play in education. And she's fastidious about our curriculum. She has built it. She builds the training alongside me. And she really is the person that makes sure that the standards when it comes to Playsense curriculums are kept at the highest level. So welcome tonight, La.
Thanks, Meg. Great to be here.
Excellent. And I'm Meg Faure. I'm also an occupational therapist and together with Lara have co-founded Playsense. I also have 3 children. Mine are a little bit older and I get 2 girls. So that's a whole lot easier than the 3 boys, I think. And I'm just passionate about little ones and their mothers in particular and also about teachers and female empowerment. So that's what tonight is all about. It's really about trying to empower you and for you to maybe find a new way to invigorate your learning journey, to be a teacher with passion and to deliver a really gold standard curriculum to little ones. And that's really what we're going to be talking about tonight. So before we get started, I'm going to share my screen. So let me just get that going. There we go. All right, there we go. Right, so tonight we're going to be talking about exploring new ECD opportunities. And I think many of you will know that the ECD sector has been utterly disrupted over the course of the last few months. And this is not just unique to South Africa, this is across the whole world. Statistics are showing that as many as 25 to 30% of ECDs worldwide are going to close post-COVID just because of economic and financial issues. And many of you have experienced this, where your school wasn't able to pay its teachers or where you weren't able to be paid or maybe were laid off because parents weren't paying their fees. And so we really are looking at a world scenario that is universal, and it's a really tricky time for ECD teachers. And I hope tonight, if nothing else, you go away with a little bit of hope and a couple of strategies that you can use. I've spoken about who we are. So I want to start off and just talk about education. And I'm sure you've all heard the word disruptor. And Lara and I like to think of ourselves as disruptors because we believe that education was ripe for disruption. And there's a reason for that. Education was, in fact, built for a completely different time with different demands and a different agenda. And this afternoon, I was doing a little bit of research because I thought, actually, where did education come from and how did we get to be where we are today? And I came across some really interesting stats. So in the 500s to 1500s AD, there was this rise of agriculture and children were forced to become laborers. And so majority of children actually had no time for play. And in fact, play was very much frowned upon because children actually had to get involved with work. And it was a few years after that as we mentioned, the industrial era, that governments, religion, and different institutions started to believe that actually it might be worthwhile having children that had a basic level of education and could, for instance, read or write or whatever. And that was really how schools started. Before that, most children who actually were educated, it happened in monasteries, and there were very, very few of them. So you had to be part of a select few who got to learn to read and write by going to school in a monastery. And then for the rest of you, you were working in the fields until such time as schools started to come about so that we could have a nice industrialized mass workforce. And that's really where schools came from. And a man called Horace Mann in 1837 in Boston, Massachusetts, came up with the concept of a curriculum and an education system and an education department. He was the Minister of Education in America, and that was the birth of schools. And that really goes back then into the 1800s. So you can see how this was built for a different time, an industrialized era. And there was a different agenda that everybody had to have the bare amount of information and knowledge just to be able to allow them to be able to work in a workforce. And of course, knowledge and information prior to that time was really only accessed by the elite few who could read. And so with schools, people started to be able to read. So there was a very specific agenda here. We wanted people to be able to read and write, and that's really where schools came from. And if you wanted to access any information around geography or history, it also had to be done in a school because there was no such thing as the internet. Now, what we know now is that we're in a very different world. And in our world, our children will access information very readily and at their own pace the minute they've learned to read and write. So learning to read and write is important. I'm definitely not going to take that away from schools. It's critically important. But the fact of the matter is that learning facts and knowledge is a thing of the past. It's no longer necessary because in our modern world, children can access it themselves. But what we also know is that schools really, as an institution, are flawed, and particularly when it comes to preschool. So what actually happened with preschools and nursery schools and ECD is that we eventually developed this model, thanks to Horace Mann, that there was a curriculum and children would learn to read and write, and it would happen in a building, in a group, en masse, and that was a school. And so what happened was, of course, as women entered the workforce in the mid-1900s, en masse, children had to be taken care of. ECD, little kids, early years, had to be taken care of. And it was because little ones had to be taken care of that schools were set up for little ones. And of course, being human beings, when we see something that works really well for one population, we just generalize it to the next. And so we took this concept of a school and a formal curriculum and an infrastructure in a building and people en masse and took it from grade 1 and threw it down into ECD. And so a lot of what happens in ECD programs is modeled on what happens in primary school education. It's outcomes based. That's where we're going. We need to tick that box. But the reality about toddlerhood and about ECD is that it's all about process and it's all about play. And unfortunately, that really has been lost. So little children going back generations, particularly in the ECD category, were playing. But of course, nowadays, play is, we're seeing less and less of it. And I know that as teachers, it's something that concerns you all terribly because you're seeing little ones who are being overscheduled and are really being pushed into kind of a certain mold very, very young. And I'll never forget when Lara and I first started Playsense, I think it was 4 or 5 years ago, there was a mom in one of our groups whose child was not only doing Playsense, play ball, I think mini golf, but also learning Mandarin. And I can remember Lara and I looking at each other and going, when does this little one play? And thank goodness this little one was in Playsense because actually he was getting a bit of play. But the reality is that toddlerhood or early years has become very, very pressurized for little ones. So why is it that we think education is flawed? Well, the first thing is that education, because of the way that it's been kind of modeled, is based on having a very expensive infrastructure. And by that, I mean 4 walls, a purpose-built building with classroom assistants and a secretary taking bookings. And before you know it, you've got a very heavy infrastructure in many of our schools. And so what that ends up meaning is that the most important thing about a school, which is of course you and the way that you interact with your little ones, ends up getting just a small chunk of the revenue stream. And so we believe that that is a flawed model. We believe that having an expensive infrastructure is not the way to go, because if the magic has got nothing to do with the infrastructure, why on earth are we prioritizing it financially? So because of that, we believe that teachers are underpaid and very often undervalued. I mean, you just have to spend half an hour with a lawyer and you've probably clocked up kind of half a teacher's salary for the month. And, you know, that's just the wrong way around, in our opinion. The third way in which it is flawed is that because of the fact that we're looking after large volumes of children while their mothers work, they've been put into very large classrooms. And that is obviously just, you know, kind of economies of scale, get as many as you can into a classroom to bring costs down and to use one very important resource, the teacher, across a mass. And so we believe that that needs to be disrupted entirely. And there's a very good reason for that. And Lara's going to go through why it is that these big groups of children doesn't serve our little ones very well. The other part of education for little ones that is flawed is that it can't be a one-size-fits-all. And this is what I was talking about, that we've got this kind of outcomes-based education for grade 1 to grade 7 that we're just generalizing down to a 2-year-old. And it really doesn't work like that. Classroom education does not have to be generalized down. And of course, the other part about education is that it's actually very inefficient. And nothing taught us more about inefficiency than COVID and lockdown, where suddenly you can fit in a lot more meetings, you can do a whole lot of education with your children, and you don't have to travel in traffic all day. So we know that that whole concept of getting to a school and traveling in traffic is inefficient, and there's got to be a better way to do it. And so what we're going to be talking about tonight is really what is the better way to do it. Is there something out there that we can kind of come alongside you and join with you to be able to offer a better solution, both for you and for the little ones in your groups. So because, and I'm now going to hand over to Lara, before I hand over to Lara, I want to mention that I don't know how many of you know what BC and AD stand for, so you might think you know what it stands for, but BC actually stands for before COVID, and AD stands for after disease. And we really do believe that the world of education post lockdown and post our COVID outbreak is never going to look the same. And these are the type of headlines that we're already seeing. I just pulled these off the internet today. So the top one is parents turn to pandemic pods and micro schools as the new year approaches. So parents all over the world are realizing these little micro schools are the way to go, because it decreases the risk of disease. And then for other reasons as well, which we're going to talk about. And you can see how these pandemic pods and these micro schools are just cropping up everywhere. And if you are interested in it, just go into your Facebook profile and put into the search column pandemic pods or micro schools, and you'll get a flood of information coming through. So with all of that in mind, education is ripe to be disrupted. We're delighted to be with the ones who are doing it. And Lara's going to really take us through how we can meet this need. And sorry, Lara, but just before you do, just to mention that there's two critical parts to this equation, and that is you and your children. And it is your needs and the little ones' needs that we need to really focus on. So what is it children need? Children need in-tune parents and teaching. They need a transition space between home and formal schooling. They need sensory motor activities, and they need their soft skills to be developed, and they need to play. So that's what little ones need. What do teachers need? Teachers need connection, support, and better access to income. And I think that's really what we're going to talk about. Lara's going to talk about this first part, about what children need and how we can deliver this. And I'm going to talk about what we can do for teachers.
Thanks, Meg. So the three magical ingredients of a program that enable optimal development, we believe, are the person, the curriculum or the activities that they engage in, and the environment. And as depicted in this diagram, when these overlap optimally, the child's first out-of-home learning experience will be optimal. So let's look at the person. What do little ones need? So when we started Playsense, the question was, what is the one magic skill that if you could help each child to develop it, you could be giving them the best start in life and for the rest of their lives? And we really believe that that is self-regulation, is the super skill for the best start and success in life. Now, why? Let's look at the research. Well, the marshmallow test was conducted at Stanford University in the 1960s by Michelle. Children are offered a marshmallow, but they are asked to wait. And when the researcher comes back, if the marshmallow is still there, they'll get a second one. Now, this research was initially carried out with 4- and 5-year-olds, but many follow-up studies have been administered throughout these little ones' lives. So these people are now in their 60s and 70s. And for example, when the same participants graduated from high school, Michelle could predict their SAT scores, which is the American equivalent of leaving school, your scores, more accurately than their IQ, and found that the children who waited possessed the habits of successful people. Later studies show the most unbelievable results. They have more successful marriages, higher incomes, and better health. They stay out of jail, they're less likely to use drugs, and they have a lower body mass index. Isn't that incredible? Just from the ability to wait. So despite our Western emphasis on academics, even companies like Google have discovered that it's the soft skills that make better employees than STEM skills. And this super skill is self-regulation. So what were those little ones doing? They demonstrated the ability to delay gratification, to identify, name emotions, and act appropriately, and the ability to focus, ignore impulse, and demonstrate empathy. Those are also some other self-regulation skills. So what is our mandate at Playsense? Well, it's to develop emotional regulation so that the toddler will be able to identify, name, and reflect on their own and others' feelings, and be able to self-regulate behavior in the context of these emotions. To cultivate social human beings who contribute meaningfully to their world and who are connected with people and the environment. That's really, when a little one between 2 and 4, they really are learning to be social beings, and they need somebody to guide them. We don't naturally share or take turns as little people. Then we need to nurture the super senses, which is inspiring little ones to be intrinsically motivated, to explore and to master and learn from their world. We want to see engaged learners who achieve their goals through play by planning, problem solving, and creative solutions. And the last one is obviously we would want to see that they are achieving the measurable goals of toddlerhood in the areas of daily tasks or independence, motor skills, language skills, and perceptual skills. So that's a tall order in our mandate, but you'll see that any traditional program would emphasize the last skill, which is typically what we can tick off on a list, as Meg said. But at Playsense, we believe that if you're achieving the first four, you will naturally achieve the last one. So our next question was, well, how do we develop the skill in very little children of the ages, particularly 2 to 4 year olds? Well, it all comes down to our curriculum. Engaging a child's imagination through play is actually the key to developing self-regulation. So through play, and I wasn't really surprised by this because I'm an occupational therapist, but what really did surprise me is the research featuring imaginary or make-believe play, which is actually the type of play that is fast disappearing from our classes, and it's relegated to happening in a corner over there with some dress-up clothes or in free play only. And over and above that, children are having much less time to engage in this type of play. And what have we put in its place? Drill type activities, memorization, and worksheets. Now, what does the research say? Vygotsky concluded that of all activities, pretense affords young children the greatest opportunity to become self-regulated. Now, why is that? Well, children make playful substitutions. What they do is they distinguish an internal idea from a concrete reality by changing an object's usual meaning. So that's, for example, when a block becomes a car or a cylinder block becomes a baby's bottle. What are they doing there? They're relying on their thought and not impulse. They're having to really substitute concrete and abstract. They develop language, which is a tool of the mind. If I ask you to think of a dog, you hear the word dog and you immediately get a picture in your head. And that is how language and our thinking is so intertwined. Then, following social rules, what children do when they make believe is they willingly place constraints on their own actions, which in other scenarios they wouldn't do. So, for example, a little one who usually can't keep still, they lie still for a doctor to examine them. Or a little boy who stands guard outside the castle from the big dragons. Now, what's happening there is they are basically controlling their impulses in order to play the game. So how should we design a curriculum that best supports self-regulation? Well, curriculum themes and sub-themes need to be carefully designed to encourage imagination. So our themes, for example, all about me, the jungle, and the town run for a month, which is pretty standard in most curriculums. But what we do is we use weekly themes, which we call sub-themes of human roles, in order to scaffold the child's imaginary play. So, for example, our My Town theme has a sub-theme of a shopkeeper. And then all activities in the day reinforce this role. So from the music to the stories, the art, the sensory play, and the outdoor play emphasize this role, the language that this role entails, and the scenarios that children can enact with their playmates in a special slot of the day called the play plan. Now, without adult support, the play of children cannot reach mature dramatic play. And we actually believe at Playsense that teaching children to play in this way has to be as intentional and systematic as teaching content-related skills. So just as much as teachers feel the pressure to do ABCs and 1, 2, 3s too early, we're actually saying let's be as intentional and systematic and replace that with make-believe play. So the last part is the environment. Now, what do we consider the environment? Well, the first thing is a home. That this is a nurturing space, and we feel that the first out-of-home learning experience for little ones should be positive. It must just feel like a play date for them. We have 6 children as a maximum in our groups, and why is this? Because we really want a teacher to be able to understand each little one, nurture them, get to their level, and play with them. as well as tune into their emotional state and help them learn to socialize. As I said, becoming a little friend is tricky for little ones, and I'm sure you're used to the biting and grabbing toys and that you need to help them with. So what is your role? Well, at Playsense, we see teachers as co-players and co-regulators. What does that mean? Well, you are the child's play guide. We train you into developing the skill of knowing when to step in and when to step out, because we want children to still lead their own play. Otherwise, it's not really play. We also help you understand individual difference in the way children process their sensory world and therefore play and learn. So we don't just see children, as Meg was saying earlier, as almost like a factory. They're all the same. We acknowledge individual difference. You also pick up on their emotional state, and you help them to identify and name their emotions, as well as work through them for an appropriate response. And with so much planning and thought having gone into this curriculum, it means that you can be confident that you can arrive either on a screen, if you're doing online, or in person in a home, to do what you love, connect and play. Thanks, Meg.
Fabulous. So we actually asked our teachers, because we felt that it would be best for you to hear about our teachers' experience. And this is one of our teachers, Antoinette, and she's going to tell you a little bit about how the curriculum works with the little ones.
Hi, I'm Antoinette, and I joined Playsense 4 years ago, and I'm so happy that I did. Playsense embodies everything that I believe a play group should offer, and that little children between the ages of 2 and 4 years should be receiving in their first few years of life. I am rewarded every day by closely connecting with each child and nurturing them while they play and they learn, and they explore and they question, and they in turn have a safe, welcoming place to go to every day, where they're accepted, they're understood, they're extended, and they're guided through the early social interactions. The groups are small enough for me to connect with each child every day, and yet they're big enough for the children to have enough social interactions that they learn all the vital lessons for their age. And this is done through the specific curriculum and through co-regulation done by the teacher, and of course play. My wish is that every child would have the chance to attend a Playsense group. Goodbye.
Thank you, Antoinette.
Hi.
Right, so I know that at this point you've probably got quite a few questions about it, and you are welcome to put them into the Q&A and into the chat as we go along now, because in case I don't answer them all, and we will have time for more questions afterwards. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about how we actually come alongside you. And you know, when I'm often think about the social impact of my business and of Lara and my business, we think about really who are we impacting, and of course we're impacting the little ones, and Lara's spoken about how the curriculum does that, how critical play is, and how we really do believe that we're building the core capacities for the future in these children. But equally close to our hearts are the teachers. We believe in female empowerment. We believe that women can run their own businesses and should have it, and this really is about having your own business, and this is how we come alongside you. So there are 5 key aspects to Playsense that differentiate Playsense from other programs. The first thing is that we believe in innovation. We are teaching skills for the future, which are the soft skills that Lara has spoken about, and we enable it through technology, not technology that the child uses, but the technology that allows you to access the information. So we use tech to make sure that we can deliver the right information to you. And I'm going to show you what the portal looks like just now. The second thing is that one of our values in Playsense is that we believe that learning is a lifelong journey, and we believe that it starts in the early years, which is why we are involved in ECD, but none of us stop learning at all. And so we believe in training our teachers. And the training program, we've got one that's currently underway, takes between a week to 3 weeks, depending on your time constraints, because it's done online in your own time. You meet up with Lara and I during the course of that as well, and we support you along the way. We've got about 36 modules in our training, and it covers everything from what is the little one's sensory personality in your groups. And we know that if you understand a little one's sensory personality, you can really ignite their fire and get them excited about being educated and about learning. It covers things like how to run your own business. It covers how to use book sharing, which is one of our techniques as a method of of helping little ones develop self-regulation and language. So we go through rigorous training with you, and it doesn't stop. We make sure that our teachers once a month get some updates from us, and Lara's in charge of that. The third aspect of Playsense is that we believe that a connection to a community is very important. I don't know how many of you run your own schools, but for many of you, if you are running your own schools, you might find it quite a lonely space. And so we believe in bringing you into our community. Our teachers are absolutely amazing. They have their own WhatsApp group and are sharing ideas all the time. I think it's one of the best parts about Playsense. And then we have an operating system, which I'm going to show you just now, which is how parents can connect with you, just like Uber or Airbnb. Parents will know where you are and connect into your group, and we do your marketing for you. And then, of course, because we need to be flexible, we have two platforms that run parallel. One that is an in-home platform. In other words, you do it at school while you're with the little ones. But if your group needs to shut down because somebody's come down with COVID in it, we then have an online program that the whole group and their parents switch onto. So let me show you a little bit about these platforms. So this is the Playsense platform that the teachers access. So this happens in a home. So this will either be a parent's home that you'll be allocated into if you can't use your own home, or if you've got your own home, run it in your own home. And you will there be teaching a group of up to 6 children. We limit our numbers to 6 children, and that's because we believe that teachers can't really do justice to self-regulation in little ones if they've got lots of little ones in the classroom. And many of our teachers, when they join us, say that in their previous classroom situation, it was a lot of damage control, there was a lot of noise, there were a lot of temper tantrums. We're in a Playsense group because there's only 1 to 6, 1 teacher to 6 children. It's a lot calmer. So this is the curriculum. Just a little bit about it. It gets delivered to you on a portal every day. And this is the C theme, for example, and every day there'll be activities. And then there's an overview of the theme, which you would click on there at the top. And that would give you things like your book lists, what books to get from the library. You can print some little cards. These are movement cards that tells the little one how that they're going to swim like a shark, for instance. Then there are the emotion cards, which helps little ones get in touch with their emotions. And then every week there's an overview and a resource list that you can use. So all your prep is done for you. All you need to do is just pull together the equipment, which will be as part of your equipment as the franchisee. So that's really kind of a school on a page there. We've also got obviously our music portal. So any music and songs that are part of the curriculum for the day, you'll actually find the tracks here. And if you've got this app on this web app open on your phone or on your iPad, you then will be able to play the music. And then we have lots of extra ideas that, things like a chill zone and a storage box and all of that sort of thing. And then going back to the curriculum, every day of the week has different slots. There is reading and singing. This is the art section. So if you click on any of the pink areas, it mines down and tells you everything that your little one, what you need in order to conduct the activities, what the activity is going to look like. We literally do it all for you. And we make sure that you don't have to do any extramural preparation because we've really done it for you. So there you can go back to this week's summary. And there you can see the rest of the day is sensory play, there's outdoor play, there's imaginary play, there's book time. And when you've finished, you just click that you've completed the week and it takes you on into the following week. And there you have it. And then there you're on to week 4. So that's just a little bit about your curriculum that we deliver for you, and we take all the nightmare out of preparing for yourself. And of course, many of our teachers like you are very experienced, so they want to add in their own take as well. So they're having different art activities, and that's absolutely perfect, but it is all there for you. Then you have your online program, and this is done online. So that's for those of you who want to actually conduct the program without actually being in touch with the children. That's particularly, there are lots of parents now who don't want their children in play groups. And here you can have up to 12 children in your group, and the parents pay 1,750 Rand for these classes, and you facilitate it twice a day. You come on with Zoom, but don't worry, we train you exactly how to use Zoom. We really, really do hold your hand and make sure that you're feeling adequately equipped to do online schooling. This is a little bit about what that portal looks like. So the parents would see this. They'll actually see this curriculum, and they'll see that this first theme is me and my body. And they'll be able to know that what they're going to need for it. So they'll have a resource list, which they can actually go and buy themselves. And most stuff is available at Pick and Pay and any retailer. Or we can also deliver in a box for them. That's up to them if they do want to have the products delivered in. That's no problem. And then the mom's now ready to start her week. She starts her week, and you'll actually have the same access, obviously, and you'll be able to see, okay, so today the activities little ones are doing is, for instance, there's an imaginary play game with the Post-its, and you'll be able to guide the moms and say, get your Post-its out, make sure you've done your activity, everyone take photographs. So in your group, there's a lot of interaction with all the parents so that everybody is on the same page. It feels like a community. The next day, you would then go on to the sensory activities and outdoor play, for instance. So there are 2 activities for every day for the parents to do, and you just zoom in and do the story time morning and at the end of the morning. So those are 2 parallel programs that run. And now I want to hear from another one of our teachers about what it's like to actually be part of Playsense.
What I love about Playsense is that the curriculum is already done for you in depth, and your job is then to do a limited amount of planning and preparation, and obviously to execute the program to the best of your ability. What I also find is absolutely amazing about the program is the support structure set in place. Not only from a managerial side or the admin side, but most importantly from the side of the teachers. The group of teachers are amazing, and never have I ever seen a group of people who are so supportive with each other, with ideas, with feedback, with help. So that is definitely why I say that I'm so blessed to be part of the Playsense team.
Thank you, Di. So there you have it. We do your curriculum for you, and we make sure you feel supported. So this is what our operating system looks like, just so you know, our marketplace. So you'll get listed, and there'll be a little tag of where your group is. And then when a mum goes and clicks on it, she can either search, so she can click, I'm searching for groups near Pretoria, and then all the groups near Pretoria come up, and then she can actually mine down and see what your group's all about. So this is Sally's group. She's got 4 children in her group. She's got 1 space available. These are the days she runs, and these are the fees. So everything's there for parents to see, and they can onboard themselves into your group. So we make sure we do the marketing for you as well. So that really is all the support that you get from us. And it brings us to the end of what we're chatting about today. For me and from Lara's side, we would absolutely love for you to join us. We are growing. We have got massive demand from parents. I think I've lost track now of how many are on our waiting list. So we've got children for you. If you have got a home, then it's even better, because that means that you are a host and a teacher, which means that we don't need to find you a host home, and we can literally pop a group into your homes for you. If you do not have a home that is suitable, then we try and find a host home in your area where a mom would want you to be able to actually come into her home. And Lara was a host for her little boy, and I was a host for all 3 of my little ones, and I loved it. Of course, I wasn't the teacher, because that's your magic. That's not my magic. So yeah, so I think there's one question, and for those of you who've got more questions, you're welcome to ask at this point. Okay, so the first one is from Fatima. She's very curious about the online facilitating. Isn't it tricky to work virtually with this age group? So yes, it is tricky. And the reason that it's tricky is not because the little ones don't respond, because they really do. And I'll talk about that just now. But what's tricky is that it's more about the parents' expectations. If parents are expecting their child to be occupied entirely by a teacher, it's not going to happen virtually online. So it's very important that we position it for parents that this is not that they're coming to a school. Parents have to get involved. They have to be part of the homeschooling process. They have to do the 2 activities in the morning. But what's amazing is how much the little ones learn from you during your Zoom session. So as part of your training, you get trained as to how to do the Zoom session. Lara, could you tell us a little bit about what you actually delivered to the teachers so that they are prepared for that morning session?
Sure, Meg. So at the beginning of lockdown, I think we all had to learn how to become clowns on the screen and really engage children. And what I've been amazed by is how some of our teachers say they get kicked off their Zoom 40-minute free allocation, whereas in the beginning it was just 15 minutes that they could keep their little ones engaged. And that was because what we did is we had a structure with our themes, as I've said, but we actually combined all the learning from all the teachers, and we've created structured morning rings so that little ones begin to know there's a little routine to the morning. There's a quiet play activity with things mom can just grab from her kitchen or around the house. So there's puppeteering, there's a story, a song. We give you all the links to different songs or books to show on your screen. And yeah, some teachers have loved it so much that they're staying online. So yeah, it's really amazing how the little ones do get used to it. But yeah, you were right. You know, the parents' involvement and their excitement for it in the beginning is what determines its success.
Yeah, for sure. And we've got the difference between the in-home and the online. The in-home, the parents don't get a free trial week. They sign up for your class and start paying from the get-go. But with the online, we do allow parents to have 1 week free trial. And it's always such an amazing thing for me to see the parents actually stay on after that week's trial. And in fact, one of our teachers, I don't know if it was Di, actually last week, had 3 people on trial and 3 people signed up at the end of the week. So that just is testament to the fact that you know, the parents really do value what you can do online. So it certainly is a good solution. Keep asking your questions. We will answer them all. Michelle asked whether or not the recording is going to be online afterwards, so you can access it. Yes, it will be. It is on our Facebook page and also on the link page where you originally booked for this. There, it'll also be loaded up there as well. So you can definitely go and rewatch this and revisit it. The next question is, how do we access the training? So basically what the process is that you tomorrow morning or now can send off an email to us, and we will give you a link to actually email tomorrow when we send you the email about tonight. And you do your application. So in order to become a Playsense teacher, you have to have a background with little ones. You have to have had experience. And it really is helpful if you've got some sort of degree, course, diploma, and it can be in anything from ECD to occupational therapy like Lara and I, psychology, any course that does deal with little ones is really valuable. We then do obviously all the checks and balances with you, and if you are accepted to become a Playsense teacher, then you sign up, and the cost, and then you go into the training. So the training, there are 3 parts to what we offer you. The first part is the training, which, as I said, is about a 1 to 3 week program, depending on how full-time you can do it. The second part is the curriculum, which we offer to you, and you've seen a little bit of that. And then the third part is we do all your administration for you. So we get to your billing for you, we collect your money for you, we make sure you paid on time, we do your marketing, as you can see on the portal for you. And so really that's the administrative part. So there are 3 parts to it. So the cost, which is what Geraldine has asked, is the actual training and the franchise fee plus all the equipment. So this is if you're going to be an in-home teacher, you're going to be running a school, you need all the equipment for everything. Your equipment is going to be, I think, around about 20,000, if I'm not mistaken, for this year. And that is very, very comprehensive. We've got gorgeous Melissa and Doug puzzles. We've got little kitchens, lots of imaginary play stuff. And then the franchise part of it, the franchise and training part of it, is about 12,500, and that all of that we can do in payment plans for you. So don't worry if you're feeling like post-COVID there's just no extra money. Just chat to us. We can make it work for you. And we also are initiating a scholarship program, which will mean that some teachers will be able to be trained for free, depending on certain criteria. And then once you're into the program, there's a royalty that you would then pay to us for the administration of your group. Yeah, so I don't know if there are any other questions, Lara, while we wait for other questions, and I think we will probably finish within the next few minutes. But in the meantime, Lara, is there anything that you still want to share?
Meg, I just wanted to share perhaps how creative our teachers have been, and how some have actually are using both the online model and the in-home model, and just really being creative. So for now, you know, you can be online or in-home, and if you're in-home, you can revert to online if we had to go back to lockdown. But some teachers who had to go onto online then gained new parents, and then when they went back in home, they didn't want to lose those parents, and so they actually ran a morning ring, and then they have the in-home school in a parent's home, and then they have a closing ring online. And so they've actually combined both of our models. And I'm just so amazed at people's resourcefulness and how they are making it work for themselves.
Yeah, and that kind of really speaks to Colette's question, which is, can you do this with a full-time teaching job? So you can do the online part with a full-time teaching job if you are in certain time zones. So for instance, if we have demand for you to run a group in the evening, you could do that. You could do that, or like Lara said, you could be running a morning group real time, live in your own school or one of our schools, or you could, and then in the afternoon you can be doing the online. So yes, you certainly can do it in that way. And the cost involved for the online route, Crystal, that's a really good question. And it is less because there is no equipment. But the training is the same, because the training we do is very robust, so that you can flip between online and in-home. So that is the same, but the actual cost for the equipment obviously doesn't exist. So that's why it's a whole lot cheaper. And so, Crystal, if you applied for our scholarship and got the training for free, and you had no equipment, I think you would be probably looking at about 4,000 Rand if you didn't have to pay for the training. And if you did have to pay for the training, that would be about 12,000 Rand for the training, plus us setting up your group and getting everything sorted, putting you onto our platform, and that's part of the franchise fee. Yeah, so our teachers, just so that you know, they earn between, on the lower end, about 8,000 Rand, which would be a 3 morning a week with only 3 or 4 children, all the way up to 19,000, 20,000 Rand for a 5-day week. So it just depends how many children in your group. It depends how many days they come, and then it also depends if you host in your own home. Obviously, you don't have the host home discount, which host moms do get if they're hosting.
And also, it depends on which area you're in, because we do make fees specific to your area, so that does play a factor.
Yeah. And then how do you apply for the scholarship? So all you need to do tomorrow is, when you are applying to us, just say that you heard that I had mentioned the scholarship program on tonight's webinar, and we will put you through that process. It's something that we just activated just today. So it's brand new, and we're still having to iron out a couple of things with it, but we certainly will get back to you on that if you're not able to afford the full training. And then I love Lydia's questions. It sounds great. She says, do you offer Playsense in any African language? So the answer to that question is that it is available in English and Afrikaans. And what we do have is, we have an initiative where if a teacher comes along and she wants to translate it for us, we then can have a look at discounting a whole lot of things for her, because you're adding value to our system. We had a teacher a few years ago who did our Afrikaans curriculum for us. She translated it to Afrikaans. So if you're interested in helping us with the translation and transforming it into an African language, we'd be delighted to work alongside you, Lydia. Okay, so another question, how much would a teacher be paid for the online teaching? What's the charge to the parents? Okay, so the charge to the parents is 1,750, and I probably need my calculator here, but I'll just wing it. If you had 10 children in your group, obviously that's 17,050 Rand that would be coming as income, and the royalty that is payable to Playsense is 19%. So you would probably be going home with probably about 14 or 15,000 Rand a month, I'm guessing, at a little bit of a wing it. But yeah, that's probably what you're looking for if you had a full group. And our exceptional online teachers, and there are quite a few of them, do have full groups. Many of the online teachers don't have full groups because it is hard to execute a class online. But those of you who get it right can really, really do it very effectively. Yeah, and it can be universal. You don't have to have children in Pretoria to be teaching them. They can be, I think we've got a child in Romania. Yeah, we've got a child in Romania who's part of one of our groups online. So we do have children from other parts of the world. Right, so I think if there are no more questions, that kind of finishes it off from Lara and I. Thank you so much for joining us. We definitely will be sending you an email tomorrow morning, a follow-up from this, which will then, first of all, give you a link to being able to watch the video again, and second of all, that you can apply to come and join us. And please know that we are dying to have you join us. We are going to really disrupt education. We're going to make sure that education can happen in people's homes, and the teachers can actually be rewarded better than they have been until now. So join us. It's been wonderful to have you here with us tonight. Thank you. And thanks, Lara.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, me. Bye.